We'll be discussing today a little bit of a deep dive into some more amazing content from this really outstanding add-on to the Pathfinder core rulebook, aka the Advanced Player's Guide. And we're going to be we're going to be discussing the Kobolds and the Ratfolk. And then later down the road, we're going to be creating a character. It doesn't have to be a Kobold or Ratfolk, but that is eventually what we're going to be moving into. So for the first half, first thing, the Kobolds. Just to kind of give you a little idea about their history and maybe how they're different from other tabletop role-playing games.
PJ.
Yeah.
Might interject. I think you forgot a little something.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
The coffee has not kicked in as hard as I thought it did. All right, so rude. We're not introducing ourselves. How dare we? My name is PJ. You can find me everywhere at PJ McGaw. I am one half of this show with my man, Michael Powell. Michael Powell, please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Michael Powell, and you can find me on most of my socials are at Mr. Kapow, and we're going to be talking about, as PJ said, the Kobolds and the Ratfolk. It's going to be a really interesting episode, so strap on in and let's get at the table.
Yoop. So if you happen to have a hearty helping of this here handbook, there's a lot of H alliteration, please open up to page 12 in your handbook. If not, you can probably find this on websites. You know, the information is there.
Or PDFs.
PDFs, exactly. Please go ahead and buy a PDF. So what's interesting about the Kobold, first things first, is that this is not your Gygax Kobold. This is not your... Now, granted, there's still an aspect of them being minions. However, these minions come with a lot more self-identity, a lot more power, for sure, and a lot more viable options. Michael, what is the thing that first caught your attention about these creatures?
Honestly, it's the art. At least the art that Paizo has in their Advanced Player's Guide. They also look distinctly different from the Gygax Kobolds as well. And also another thing is that I really like about the Pathfinder version is they're actually really viable to play. They're not really weaklings.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but in other editions, Kobolds are considered like, I think somewhere between 1/4 to 1/6 of a person.
Low tier.
Very low tier. Stat-wise, mind you. Stat-wise, it's like, I think their CR rating's like 1/4 or 1/6. So you need 4 to 6 of them to even challenge one person, which, you know, you can use creatively as a GM. You can be like, okay, well, hordes of kobolds, pack tactics, sure, absolutely. But what if you want to be a hero and be a kobold? Well, now you can. Let's take a look at this, the build that we have for the kobolds. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the lore here. What's interesting about them is that they're still paranoid. They still live in groups. They still live in communities. They're still minions, but they kind of worship dragons, and they take pride in the fact that they themselves are dragons. In past editions, there is this idea that kobolds are a far offshoot of dragons, but in Pathfinder 2nd edition, it looks more like they're a lot more closer related to dragons.
Yeah.
They're not
yeah,
so
in
far.
past editions, they're like that cousin that you don't really talk about.
Absolutely.
Oh, we got some folks in chat. Hello once again, Reap Psyche and Sigi1.
I was just going to say, Sigi1, hopefully we're saying your name right. It's great to see you in chat. Hope you like the show. And I hope you stick around for the character creation part. That's always fun. SG1.
Oh, SG1. Oh, okay. I got it.
I see you. Okay, so first things first. If we want to talk lore, we can talk lore. Bottom line is, you know, these guys are the offshoots of dragons. They are short creatures. They are actually listed as short-sized creatures. They stand about 3 feet tall, reptilian humanoids with slender bodies and long tails.
They're about gnome height.
Yeah, they're scaly gnomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some stuff that goes into their alignment and religion, but really, We want the crunchy stuff, don't we?
Yeah, well, the kobolds, they're listed as resourceful survivors whose snare-guarded wardens and opportunistic scavenging has cast them as villains to most humanoids. So,
Which is interesting because it's like they are giving them enough neutrality to do whatever you need them to do as both a player and a GM, but they're not turning away from the fact that these will most likely be used as villains or things you're going to have to fight. So it creates this amazing flexibility. Either you are a, for lack of a better word, neutral kobold, chilling in your warren, hanging with your dudes and dudettes and homies, and then you're like, oh, there's a shiny knight, I'm going to follow him because X, Y, and Z. Or conversely, you're a GM, you're like, I just gotta make them fight 30 of something. Kobold, there, done. So there's flexibility. You can be both the enemy and the hero.
PJ, let me ask you something. Why would you want to play a kobold?
Well, this is really awesome, and I think this is something that you can really spin a yarn more. Is by you, I mean, Michael. I'd love to hear you talk more about this. What I think is really cool about kobolds in Pathfinder 2 is that even though they are smaller and maybe not like gigantic powerhouses, they are like the dragon race that players can play as. So, like, in some editions you have, half dragons or dragon humanoids. Now what you have in Pathfinder is a kobold that can actually hold its own. And the coolest thing that I love is that there is this kind of tribal culture about their scale color, because their scale color directly reflects their dragon that they descend from, that they kind of worship to an extent. And please, Michael, tell more about the draconic things, because it's so cool.
Oh, there is so much. Actually, there's so much that I want to talk about it a little bit later, but because right now I actually want to talk more about their, as you said, their society. It's very, at least in the book, Raw, they're very tribal-based, clan-based. You typically worship a dragon which they have affinity for. Like if they're green dragon kobolds, they worship a green dragon. If they're red dragon kobolds, they worship a red dragon. So there's a lot of ways you could take how you want to play a kobold.
Yeah, and you're not just like, there's also a lot of stuff here about them being great trappers and great people of ingenuity. Like, if the goblins, especially in Edge of Legends world, are violent psychopathic children that have this uncanny bent for like super science alchemy, then kobolds are like that on a small scale. They are brilliant at jury rigging. They are brilliant at making traps. They are brilliant at the ingenuity that comes from being so small and needing so much.
It's one of those things where I kind of actually liken them more towards the Star Trek Ferengi. They're small, they're cunning, and honestly, they also know when to be kind of sniveling. When to be, oh, don't hurt me, I'm just a little kobold. And as soon as you turn your back, knife in the back.
Oh yeah. So let's get to like the deep dive. Let's get to the character building stuff. So let's say you want to build, like last episode, we made a kobold bard dragon disciple.
So who was basically also Billy Idol.
Yep, who was a punk rock Billy Idol. He was a lot of fun. So the first thing you have to choose is your scale color. And what's great about this is that you are now effectively walking around as a dragon person. You choose your color, and that gives you not only a breath weapon, and I'll say that again, you are now a kobold for the first time in I don't know how long with a natural breath weapon that matters. Not that like crappy one that other editions gave.
They call the Billy Draconic Exemplar. I think that's
Draconic Exemplar. You are an example of your dragon heritage.
You could choose from black, blue, green, red, white, brass, bronze, copper, gold, and silver. And as you said, depending on which color, it means what kind of breath weapon you would have access to. And also, I want to say this. for your homebrewers out there, you are not just limited to these colors. Work with your DM, and they can even make you maybe a gem kobold. Imagine that, a gem kobold from one of the gem dragons.
I always love that. I feel like dragons are such a versatile thing. So never hold yourself. If you like what's in the book, always use what's in the book. But one of the things to take away from Paizo is that these are guidelines that help the game be structured in a way that's more fun and fair. But if you can take this kobold and be like, oh man, I would really love to have a I don't know, a jade.
A jade
a
kobold.
Jade kobold.
Yeah.
And you can either choose an element in the book or a different one.
PJ, remember? I don't know if you know about this. There's one of my favorite dragons back in the day was the sword dragon. Ooh. Imagine a sword dragon kobold.
My brain loves it. My brain loves all of it.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining someone breathing swords at people, and I think that's metal.
And let's actually, you know what? Let's go into kind of the mechanics of the kobolds. Let's go kind of in order. Hit points. They start with 6 hit points,
and they have a small size.
That's not bad. That's not bad. It'll take maybe 2 shots to go down with 6 HP, but you got it. That's why you have a class.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to do a lot to help you out, because you can make a Kobold Barbarian. Yeah, your HP may not be as high as, say, I don't know, an Orc or Dwarven Barbarian, but you know what? You can still do it.
I can guarantee you're going to be much faster than an Orc or a Dwarf Barbarian. Then next up is, as we said before, size, small. And then we got speed, which is a 25 speed. Respectable speed. And then ability boost, which you get ability boost for dexterity, charisma, and one of your choice.
Yeah, and this is really cool because obviously what they're trying to tell you is that these creatures are designed to be small and to be social creatures. Kobolds are still social creatures. They're used to being in a big group, in a big minion collective. But the free is great because this allows you to now take this creature as it is and either make it better at its stats already, or give it the potential to be good at something else. So what you have here is freedom of creation. The only flaw, though, is constitution, which, again, makes sense. You're a small little boy.
Well, like I said, with dexterity, charisma as your bonuses, and your flaw is constitution, off the top of my head, basic class-wise, they would make great rogues and bards.
I think rogues, bards, sorcerers. You know what I'd love to see, and I think you could possibly do it. A ranger. A kobold ranger. Now, you know, because there's a tribal element there, and they could hunt for food for their people.
I would like a boost. I would say then if you do that, use for your free stat boost, go with wisdom then.
Yeah, or if you don't care about the abilities and you just want to be good with the bow, extra dex.
Yeah.
Also, I just saw Sydney of Hightower and Reap Psyche talk about a brain stealer dragon. I can only imagine that's like if a mind flayer repurposed a dragon. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Thank you for that nightmare fuel. I'm going to put that in the world one day. So moving right along. Yeah, you're welcome, everyone at Edge of Legends. Kobolds speak common.
Oh.
Yes, they speak common, draconic, an additional language of your based on your intelligence modifier, which, you know, that could be up to you. They're human and kobold. They have dark vision. Yes. And of course the draconic exemplar, where their scales will affect other cool niche powers that they have.
Do you want to talk about the feats or the heritages first?
Let's go with the heritages.
All right.
Heritages. I think this is important because no one group is a monolith. This is very, very important. If you are a kobold, you are not going to live the same way as other kobolds, if for nothing else than your geography.
Yeah.
And the Cavern Kobold, what it comes down to is that they live in like a rocky, cavernous environment.
Yeah, I want to say the Cavern Kobolds, they're kind of like your basic kobolds. They like they like long walks on a beach, autumn, pumpkin spice, that kind of stuff.
Pumpkin Spice Caves, Long Walk
Yeah.
in the Autumn Cave.
Yeah.
And they're great climbers. Of course, it makes sense because culturally they've been raised around lots of rocks to climb. Let's see here. When climbing rock walls, stalactites, and other natural stone features, you have half your speed on a success and full speed on a critical success. This doesn't affect you if you're using a climb speed for the quick climb ability. If you roll a success on acrobatics check to squeeze through, you get a critical success or a normal success instead. So you're just better at squeezing through tight places and climbing like a little gremlin.
Yeah. I would say with that, if you decide to go with Kobold Ranger, your Kobold Ranger Scout, they would make great scouts.
True, and rogues too, especially if you want to play
yeah.
a kobold trying to fit into an urban game, where it all takes place in a city, and now you're like, I'm the odd man out, but I'm very, very sneaky.
You would be good. You would make a great cat burglar.
Absolutely, and I could even see a kobold stealing all the wrong things, like inside this giant mansion is this big jewel. It's the Eye of Crash. If we can steal that, we can summon the Dragon King from beyond the grave. And you're like, got it. And then you get inside and you're like, wait, that necklace big and heavy. This would make amazing armor and trap materials. I'm stealing this instead. And then you forget and you're like, oh, I was supposed to steal one thing and I forgot. Like, it would be a funny character choice.
Yeah.
So next up we have the Dragon Scale Kobold. And this is awesome if you really want to dive into the dragon flavor a bit more. You get some really good defensive perks. Basically, you gain resistance equal to half your level, minimum 1, to the damage type associated with your Draconic Exemplar. And then you can double this resistance against Dragon's Breath weapons. So if you remember last week's episode, or a few episodes ago, we talked about the Dragon Disciple, how that gave you a powerful resistance to not only damage, but damage of an elemental type.
Yep.
What's great about Kobold is that now they have a lesser version, sure, but they have a natural version of this. To my knowledge, no other race gets this Draconic Scale ability at Jump Street because of their blood.
And also imagine stacking that already on top of the Dragon Disciple skill. I think it's their feat. You're gonna be double tough.
Which is good because you're going to be double small. So it's really helpful.
Dragon skill kobolds, seriously, just go with Dragon Disciple.
So good. Dragon Disciple is so good. A huge shout out to one of our big fans and viewers of the show. I can't recall her name in the chat, but I do know her in our other discourses as Lucy Cox. She is doing a playthrough of Pathfinder's video game Kingmaker, in which, after our show, she made a silver-blooded dragon disciple.
Oh, that is awesome.
And she, from what I can see on her post, she is killing it and having a great time. So we'll look into that. Anyway, so speaking of kobolds, there's a different side of dragons, and that side is magic. And kobolds are no strangers. With the spell scale kobold, basically, you start to, instead of focusing on the damage side of things or on the tanky side of being a dragon, you're focusing on the magic side of being a dragon. So let's say you want to be a sorcerer. You can cast the spell as an arcane initiate spell at will. Basically, what the spell is one cantrip from the arcane spell list. So you just get a free cantrip at level 1. It's heightened to it's basically the spell level is heightened to half of your level rounded up. You gain the trained proficiency rate in arcane spell attack rolls and spell DCs, and your key spellcasting ability is charisma. So if you are a sorcerer, this is effectively only good for gaining 1 extra cantrip at level 1, which, hey, that can mean the world. But let's say you are the rogue that we mentioned earlier, and you want to do an arcane trickster the lazy way.
Yeah.
You're now a spell scale kobold taking the range the rogue class, and you get a free cantrip at level 1. No one can stop you.
And also, once again, Dragon Disciple. Like I said, kobolds are kind of made for Dragon Disciples.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, they're not limited to that either. Cindy Hightower asked, is the game on Steam? Yes, I believe Kingmaker is on Steam. It's done in the old style of like Baldur's Gate, where there is no turn-based. You get into a fight, and good luck. It is high-octane violence. Not bloody, just fast. Next up is the Strong Jaw Kobold. Basically, you got a strong jaw. Your jaw is strong.
You're kind of
You
like that James Bond villain.
Oh,
Jaws.
oh,
Jaws.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Why I'm blanking. I'm like, is it Iron Maw? What's his name? Yeah, and you get a natural weapon, which hey, who doesn't want more natural weapons to throw at people? You have a bite that deals 1d6 piercing damage. It's considered the brawling group, and you have the traits finesse and unarmed.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I would say with this, go Kobold Barbarian or Kobold Monk. Unarmed attack.
Absolutely. I was thinking about the Kobold Monk. I think that could be interesting, especially because of the dexterity there. Below Wisdom, again, you could probably fix that with class background and the bonus feat there. I don't know. It does make me laugh that I imagine some kobold striking like this deep dragon stance and then just chomping on someone. That's all he does is fight someone.
Or go with also with the archetype Shadow Dancer. That would be really interesting.
Oh, that would be interesting. Next up and last of the heritage choices, you have the Venom Tail Kobold.
This was my favorite one. This is my favorite of the heritages.
Dude, talk all about it, my man.
All right. The Vistage Spur in your tail secretes 1 dose of deadly venom each day. You gain the Tail Toxin action, which means your tail is essentially kind of like a scorpion stinger. Anybody remember the classic Spider-Man cartoon? And the character is Scorpion? Basically that. The Tail Toxin is basically... It's frequency once per day. Requirements: you are wielding a piercing or slashing weapon. You apply your tail's venom to a piercing or slashing weapon. If your next strike with that weapon before the end of your next turn hits and deals damage, you deal persistent poison damage equal to your level to the target.
Now, this is super dope for like 2 things. It's like normal dope, but it's got a cape. What's amazing about this is, 1, notice, no fortitude save. They don't have to roll against it. If you hit, they are poisoned. End of discussion. So it's free damage. And not only is it free damage, it's free flat damage. You're not rolling dice and losing out on the random number generator. You are doing your level. Imagine you are a level 20 kobold, and you have some crazy magical sword with lots of damage dice and a lot of dexterity or strength to hit hard with this weapon. You slide your greasy tail across the blade with 1 action. You strike with another. And not only are you adding 20 damage to multiple dice at level 20, but then the 20 damage happens every turn. Again, for free.
This heritage would be perfect for, I want to say, either rogues, a rogue with their sneak attack, which is going to be double devastating, or the alchemist.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Especially with all the cool things you can play with there, and also you could have some really fun RP as well. You could speak to your GM and be like, "Hey, so my body naturally produces an insanely powerful venom. Can I use that for some custom homebrew things and use my own venom and my own concoctions?"
Yeah, like, hey, can I dip my tail in this thing of water and poison it? I don't really see a reason why a DM would say no to that.
I think the only reason, if I was a GM and someone would be like, "Hey, I have this level 20 poison that does 20 poison damage forever because screw you, I win," I'm going to be like, "Okay, so that's going to be a giant no, because I don't need 5 people all with your poison on their weapons doing 100 bonus damage a round." That can be a giant nope. That's a giant nope right there.
Fair enough. Because now I'm just envisioning, like, an entire party of kobolds of this heritage all dipping their tails in, like the town's water supply.
Oh, that's a good way to have a player hook to need to kill a whole bunch of kobolds real fast.
Yeah.
So now that we've gone into the kind of amazingly broken abilities that they have, and by the way, this doesn't go against your feats chosen. This doesn't go against anything. You just have one of these. You choose one, and you get it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into the Ancestry Feats, the cool little customizational things of these dudes.
Really quick, we got Scout Master of the Troop, Ian, in chat with us, who plays Woodward on Edge of Legends, and he says, I like the ability, but I believe there are some magical quivers that may be able to replace it.
Ooh, very, very true. I'll have to look into / create magical quivers. The big thing, though, is do they give you a 20 damage persistent poison effect? Because if they did, then that's rough. That sucks.
I think Paizo's going to release a thing kind of, yeah, we're going to fix this soon if they haven't yet already done it.
There's going to be a rata. Well, I think the big thing to figure out the tail toxin is A, you're taking a feat for it. B, it's one action to even put it on, and 3, if you miss, the poison's gone. You have to use it again later.
And it's a once per day thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of an all or nothing. And to make it more dicey is the fact that it is relevant to your level. So at level 5, now it's got some power. At level 1, it may make a difference. It most likely won't. And assuming you even get to level 20, let's put that on the table. You might not even get to level 20. The campaign may end at level 10. Everyone may leave the table and stop playing at like level 12. So even if you can get to level 20, then you have to ask yourself, what kind of monsters am I fighting at level 20? Pathfinder likes to throw big numbers your way, and you get to put big numbers out. It's very fun for people who like the crunchy math. But the higher you get, the more resistances, the more HP, the more bonuses these monsters are getting. So I cannot say, because I don't have a perfect in-depth knowledge of the bestiary, but at level 20, this may be a make or break thing. There may be like everyone and their cousin is immune to poison, in which case it's a waste of time. So who can say?
True that. All right, let's go into the feats.
Yeah, why don't you start us off with cringe?
All right. Cringe is what I said before. It's when you're kind of sniveling. You're kind of like, oh, don't kill me, don't kill me. Let's see. With the trigger is a creature you are aware of critically succeeds on a strike against you and would deal damage to you. Which means, basically, they're about to hit you. They're essentially just about to hit you. They're aware of that. And with pitiful posturing, you cause your foe to pull back a deadly attack. The attacking creature takes a circumstance penalty to the damage of the triggering strike equal to your level +2. This penalty applies after doubling the damage for a critical hit. The attacker is then immune to your cringe for 24 hours.
Yeah, so what I love about this is it's not going to stop the crit from coming your way, which I think is good because sometimes as a GM, we need to feel good too. Sometimes we need to get a crit on a player. We don't want to kill you. Some GMs might. We just want to scare you a little bit. And this allows us to still get the crit against you. It's just going to help you to not die as badly. And what I love, it's like that stupid game. I'm trying to remember that some comedian was doing this thing where it was like, oh, what? You're lying? Oh, you little son of a... And that's kind of the mechanical role play of being like, no, not in the face. Oh, okay, not in the face. Wait, yeah, no, in the face. You're my enemy. So I just think it's great. Now that's the first level. You get the Dragon's Presence. Basically what it comes down to is that when you roll success on a saving throw against a fear effect, you get a critical success instead. Now that is amazing because normally to get a crit, you either have to roll 20 or get 10 above the DC. So if you succeed, you're like, oh man, that success, that's gonna put me out of the fight for a while. But now, automatic crit. All I have to do is succeed to crit. And with a lot of fear abilities, that means you're just not afraid. In addition, when you attempt when you attempt to demoralize a foe, your level or lower, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to the intimidation check. So what I love about this is you are small but mighty. You fear no one, and people fear you, even though you are 3 feet tall and have eyes on the opposite side of your head like a fish. You are scurry. And then last but not least, I'm sorry, there's so many feats for first level. Jeez Louise. Cobalt Breath. This goes back to the Draconic Exemplar we mentioned earlier. Your scales affect the dragon breath you can have. It's a natural weapon, 2 actions, 30-foot line or 15-foot cone, depending on, the ancestry, and it deals 1d4 damage, which isn't great, but considering at level 1, you're basically stabbing anyone in a 30-foot cone, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's also a natural weapon that you can't be disarmed with.
True. So if you're grappled, you can probably argue with your GM, "Oh, I'm grappled. Is my snoot closed? I'm gonna blow my fire in his face." And here's where this gets to be really, really useful. Right, level 1, it's like a dagger in 15-foot cone or 30-foot line. It's nice. It's not great, but at 3rd level and every 2 levels thereafter, the damage increases by another 1d4. The shape of the breath, the damage type, and the saving throw matches those of your Draconic Exemplar ability that you've already chosen, or at the beginning. And this has the trait associated with the type of damage it deals. So as you get more powerful, even if you decide to go Dragon Disciple as well, you now have a 3rd, maybe 4th resource of a Dragon's Breath weapon that is probably not nearly as powerful, but so much more spammable. Because here's the thing. There's no limitations a day. It's 2 actions, sure. You can do this once around every round until Azamat comes home. Like, you can do this all day. And it's a DC, spell DC based on your charisma. But obviously that comes with the territory.
And once again, you cannot be disarmed with this.
Yeah, I see Reap Psyche says, "I'm sorry, what?" Yeah, it's a free breath weapon, no limitations per day, level 1, or basically a spell save DC of your level, and it's just a free 1d4 to, hold on, I gotta do some math, 3rd level, number 2 levels thereafter, 3rd, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, counting with PJ, 17, 19. Okay, so at level 19, it is 9d4 damage at will. Dang.
That's decent. That's
for free, anytime you want to. So who cares if your weapons suck? Excuse you, I'm just going to blow fire now.
Yeah. And Scoutmaster of the Troop says, 2 action are not a problem. That's casting most spells. Yeah.
Exactly. If you're not a sorcerer, you still have the effective of a 9th level. By 9th level spell, I don't mean 9th level on the table, because that would be broken. But I mean like a spell, it's been heightened to a 9th level spell, meaning a 9th level player. So you now have a 9th level cantrip that you can spam whenever you want to, regardless of your class. So if you're a barbarian who's got no magic, guess what? Now you do.
Yep. And the next feat we have is called Kobold Lore. You attentively learn key kobold survival strategies and mythology from your elders. So you're basically, well, Scoutmaster is going to like this. You're basically a kobold Boy Scout.
I want to add to that. I think, because you're right, you definitely become a Kobold Boy Scout. Also, Kobold Lore is great for bards. You can add that to your bardic lore, you get a bunch of abilities.
You gain the trained proficiency rank in stealth and thievery if you would automatically become trained in one of those skills from the background or class. For example, you instead become trained in a skill of your choice. You also become trained in Kobold Lore,
which is rare because that's a monster lore. So the only other way to get that would be probably something from a barbarian, good lord, bard with a hard D, or taking a feat specifically to learn just about kobolds. You get it for being a kobold. And next up, you have Scamper.
Yeah, this feat, I just want to say this. This is, I think Paizo has cameras in my house. That's basically me when I get a midnight snack.
Absolutely. Or in my brain, because I love the show Futurama, it's like when Zoidberg goes, whoop, 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 whoop. That happens in my head every time. Yeah. Why don't you talk about it? Because we both get up for snacks late at night.
The requirements are you have to be adjacent to at least one enemy, and it's a 1 action feat. You instinctively know how to flee danger. You stride up to your speed with a +5 foot status bonus to your speed, and you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to AC against reactions triggered by this movement. You must end this movement in a space that's not adjacent to any enemy. I could see, honestly, kobold monks and kobold shadow dancers taking advantage of this.
Yeah, I wanna play off of what Ian, our Scoutmaster of the Troop, is saying with the Kobold Ranger Scout. Let's talk about that concept. So, say you are a Kobold Ranger Scout and you specialize in bow and arrows, and you're too close for you're too close for guns. You have to switch to like whatever that line I'm misquoting. What's great about this is one action will get you minimum 30 feet away from the target. That's within bow range, and if they are lucky enough, if that enemy's lucky enough to have an attack of opportunity, which in second edition is not innate, it is a feat you have to take, which I can see some people saying that kind of sucks, but I love it because now there's more confidence in tactile mobility. You're no longer trapped into one-on-one combat. You can actually move around the battlefield. So let's say this Kobold Ranger Scout wants to do some really awesome like bow and arrow stuff, or shoot a fire breath for the 90th time, but they're too close. One action, you go at least 5+ feet farther than you normally could. Two, if they can attack of opportunity of you, you're going to become that much harder to hit. And three, once you move away, you still have 2 actions to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome. Now, granted, you can only choose 1 feat at level 1, so these are all hard choices, leading to the next one, Snare Setter.
Once again, it's another kobold feat that's great if you decide to go Kobold Ranger. You want to talk about it, PJ?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's continue with the idea of the Kobold Ranger Scout. So prerequisites, trained in crafting, because you actually have to make your snare. And this is fun as a player because now you get the freedom of kind of crunching and creating what traps you can make. So once you are trained in crafting, you are adept at the time-honored kobold art of trap making, and you gain the trained proficiency in crafting, which is weird. That's kind of redundant. Here we go. If you're already trained in crafting, which you'd have to be to get this ability, you instead become trained in a skill of your choice. So, hey, free training in something else. You gain access to all uncommon kobold snares. You gain the Snare Crafting feat, though when choosing your formulas for the feat, you can also choose from uncommon kobold snares as well as common snares. So at level 1, let's say you want to play this Ranger Kobold Scout. Now, you are really good at making traps at level 1. You get common that everyone else can get, and you get some special, really gnarly, uncommon ones that only kobolds use. And then you get the bedrock for the ability to go deep into trap making for the rest of your character, even making up your own ones from off the formula list. There's a whole formula list of traps, by the way, in both this book and the Advanced Player's Guide in the core rulebook. So if you really want to get into traps, look that up. But if you want to make up your own traps, this ability really helps you sit down with your GM and crunch some cool custom ideas out.
All right, next up we have Allies Shelter, which is a level 5 feat. Frequency once per day, and the trigger is you attempt a saving throw while adjacent to one or more allies, but you haven't rolled yet. In stressful circumstances, you find strength in your ally's example. Roll the save using an adjacent ally's modifier for that type of saving throw instead of your own. So, yeah, pretty much, there's a lot of feats that allow other characters to take the hit for you. This is one of those where, hey, you have a better saving throw than me. Let me use it.
Yeah, and I love that because the reality is that as flexible as all characters can be, the reality, just like in real life, in fantasy life, is that some people are just going to have a better edge in something than others, you know? So let's just say you're like, hey, I'm a smart kobold. I'm not a fast kobold, but this guy's got a reflex save like crazy. Hey, pull in the shirt. Hey, Ranger, dodge this for me. And that's just great to have. Yeah. And next up, we have the
Grovel.
Yeah,
Grovel.
which is like the level up of cringe, I think.
Yeah, it's like, don't hit me, please.
No, really, don't hit me.
Yeah. It's a 1 action ability, and the prerequisite is you have to be trained in deception. With ubiquitous words and with begging gestures, you convince your foes you're less of a threat. You attempt to feint against a creature. Unlike a normal feint, the creature can be within 30 feet instead of your melee reach, and you make your check against its will DC instead of its perception DC.
Let me look at that again. That requires a double look here.
Yeah.
You attempt to feint against a creature. Unlike a normal feint, the creature can be within 30 feet instead of melee touch. Okay, so this is interesting. So I think it kind of does what cringe, like what we think of when we hear cringe. It makes you so pathetic that it tries to lose interest from your enemies. What's interesting about this, though, is that it's not based on a critical hit. It can be done at range. It can be done as an action on your turn, so you can totally like beat someone up and then like look all scared and sad. And so it's a range against will DC instead of its perception DC. So it depending on how the character you're fighting is trained, it might be a lot easier. The fact that this is, from what I can tell, an at-will ranged feint.
Yeah, it's essentially that look that Puss in Boots gives you in Shrek.
Absolutely. That's kind of exactly what it is.
Yeah.
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 Huh.
You're like.
So next up is Snare Genius and Scoutmaster of the Troops. If you're loving the idea of making a Ranger Scout Kobold, because I've been seeing you and Reef talk about the artwork, and I can't wait to go into more depth on that. There's really great artwork in the book, by the way. Now you have Snare Genius. You're no longer a Snare Setter. You're better. Oh, hey, that rhymes. So now you have to have Expert in Crafting and Snare Crafting. This is easily done by the 5th level when this would pop up. Your expertise makes your snares more powerful, and you can place them quickly and efficiently. Each day during your daily preparations, you can prepare 3 snares from your formula book for quick deployment. If the snare normally takes 1 minute to craft, you can do it in 3 interactions. So basically, instead of 1 minute to place it up, 3 actions. Snares prepared in this way don't cost you any resources to craft.
Ooh.
So you're getting a free, quickly placed trap. The number of snares you can prepare this way increases to 4 if you are a master and 5 if you're a legendary. So if you are a trap-making Ranger Scout Kobold going with this idea, you just get 5 free quick traps. Mm-hmm. You can place them in combat. You can place them out of combat. And these are free. These do not go against the ones that you make a day. You're jury rigging these. And when
I could also see this being used ingeniously if you have a little bit of time and just set all your traps along a corridor where the enemy has to go to you.
Yeah, or even better, you can work tactically. This is what's really fun about this. Like you do a whole bait and switch, and then you lead them into a trap, and then you ambush them. And what's cool, the last little line here, this is juicy. Juicy. This is juicy. Your rogues will love you for this. When you craft and deploy a snare that deals damage, any creature that critically fails the saving throw against the snare's initial effect takes damage and becomes flat-footed until the end of their next turn.
Yeah.
So not only are you doing damage, but they're flat-footed, and here comes the rogue, and here comes the sneak attack.
Honestly, if you got this feat, you're essentially Kobold MacGyver.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kobold
All
MacGyver.
you need is a rubber band, some chewing gum, and maybe a pen.
Mm-hmm.
You could create a bomb or something. Somehow.
A paper clip, a hair tie, and a belly button lint, and now you have a mech warrior.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this something. Scoutmaster of the Troop, could you combine the trap with the friend who has goblin science? I will allow that because that is some awesome teamwork, and I would love to see what things that you make that I will immediately regret.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else out there saw this video. It's a guy who built a squirrel-proof bird feeder. That's how I'm envisioning things right now. Where at the end, essentially, if the squirrel doesn't get to the bird feeder, they get launched off of a catapult.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've
Yeah,
also
yeah.
seen one where like they hold on and they just go for a spin.
Yeah.
All right. So at 9th level, I'm just getting things back on task here. You get 3 different feats to choose from. Between the scales, when you strike a flat-footed creature using a melee weapon or unarmed attack that has the agile finesse traits, it gains the backstabber trait. So now, whether you're rogue or not, you're kind of a rogue.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing.
It's really not. That sneak attack damage and the flat-footed bonuses, like, they're good. Ooh, this just sounds really good. Do you want to talk about Dracomancer?
Yes, this is something you want if you're definitely a dragon disciple, I think. Dracomancer is a level 9 feat where your inborn arcane power manifests as your exemplar's most time-honored spells. Choose 1 first-level spell and 1 second-level spell from those listed for a dragon spellcaster of your draconic type, such as Alarm, Blur, Invisibility, and True Strike for black dragons. Link of all type dragons can be found here. So, yeah, you could cast each of these spells once per day as arcane innate spells. You gain the train proficiency rank in arcane spell attack rolls and spell DCs, and your key spellcasting ability is Charisma.
So this is a massive enhancement of the spell scale kobold natural ability. This is what's great about Dracomancer is that this only helps you if you are a kobold sorcerer, right? This just gives you more spells, and there is nothing bad about having more spells. If you are not a sorcerer, say you are something with a high charisma, like a bard or a rogue with a naturally high charisma, because you got to talk your way out of things. Now you just have 1st and 2nd level spells,
arcane level spells,
for free. And the best thing is they're innate spells. And now this is important to know. Innate spells are this edition's version of spell-like ability. So if you are a spellcaster, these spells exist free, and you do not have to spend a spell slot to cast them. If you are not, if you're not a spellcaster, then again you get these for free. And since you don't have any spell slots, you're not wasting any or losing any casting these spells. So it's just free magic.
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
Next up, we have Dragon's Breath, which is a level 9 feat. Do you want to take this, PJ?
Absolutely, because this is spicy. This is a spicy meatball right here. So
Oh,
you know that Kobold Breath we got at level 1, the 9d4 free damage that you can do at like level 19. So Dragon's Breath feat level 9. You can put more effort into your Kobold Breath to channel greater draconic power. Though it takes more out of you, of course. When you use Kobold Breath, get this, you can increase your damage die, to D8s. So at level 19, your 9d4 little freebie throwaway is now 9d8 damage for free. And the area is increased to a 60-foot line or a 30-foot cone. If you do, you cannot use this breath weapon again for 1 hour. So, let's break that down. You are a level 20 kobold. Nothing else matters. You have this breath. It's juicy. It's amazing. Everyone says they got the best breath, everyone. So, you're in this really big bad fight, and the minute you finish this fight, you're in a dungeon, you know that the coast is clear, right? You just draw in all your power, you shoot this mega breath for 9d8 damage. And then assuming they survive, which at level 19 they probably will, but if they all die, you can take a nap, a wee little nappy poo, and then get all your breaths back. And if you are a dragon disciple, you have more breaths that you can use.
Yeah, it's like a short rest.
Yeah, it is. It's just great. If you want to play the breath game, if you want to hold on, I'm gonna come up with a funny word for this. If you want a breath death revolution, You can do that. Breath Death Revolution is so stackable in this game. It is delicious. And now we're moving on to
The capstone.
The capstone. And I'm just going to say this because this sounds metal as hell. The Elite Dracomancer.
Yep, it's a feat at level 13.
You did Dracomancer before. Why don't you bring us home with the Dracomancer?
All right, sure. Well, if you want to get this feat, you have to take Dracomancer, the regular one. Your magic rivals that of lesser dragons. Choose 1 3rd-level spell and 1 4th-level spell for those listed for a dragon spellcaster of your choice, such as Paralyze and Sneaking Cloud for a black dragon. You can cast each of these spells once per day as arcane innate spells.
Yeah, it's amazing. So again, it makes your magic that much better. And what's great is that it's the only one at 13. And I like this because sometimes choice is outstanding, but my brain gets lazy at times and I just want an easier setup. So if I'm looking at this and I go, okay, it's the only thing at 13, which means it's the only thing kind of worth taking at 13. There's really no other options there. Yeah. So what I can do then is plan ahead and go, okay, I think having a Kobold Ranger Scout with some really cool dragon magic and a bunch of really awesome snare feats would really be a fun build. You hear that, Ian? Imagine you're building amazing traps and you're also shooting free spells. So you go in advance, you get the, let's see, where is the dragon magic? Which one is that? Dracomancer at 9. So you decide not to play Breath Death Revolution, but you do, because maybe that's not useful for you. But you can still get all the really cool snare feats, and you get the free magic, and then you get the super free magic, the super powerful free magic.
Yeah.
And especially for an archer a ranger, where in this game rangers don't get magic, now you have some really powerful potential.
All right, so that's pretty much our deep dive on the kobolds.
Now, next up, we're excited about this, we are going to talk about a race and then not only go into the lore of it in Paizo, but maybe even go into the lore of it in Edge of Legend. And that ancestry, I should say, is the Ratfolk. Look at these little guys. Look how cute they are. It's like Feifel and American Tales.
Yep. I got the graphic up there for our viewers.
Yep. Now, first thing I want to say,
it looks like Feifel's dad.
It does. You know what? One of these days I'm gonna write a one shot, and it's gonna be American Tale with Ratfolk and Catfolk. So what I love about Ratfolk out of the gate is that if you know Starfinder, this is really cool. I love this. If you know Starfinder, you know that there's a race in Starfinder called the Yosoki. They are like super brilliant rat people that build machines. They really lend well towards the mechanic as opposed to any other class. And the Ratfolk in Pathfinder are just ancient precursors to the Yosoki. They even call them the Yosoki. So it's a really cool blending of things there. So bottom line is these are kind of a communal people that try to love the family as much as they can, but there's always a kind of hoarding aspect, a personal hoarding aspect. And in our lore for Edge of Legend, there's still the community, but there's also still self-preservation, self-reliance. Those are two major parts.
I kind of want to say the Pathfinder version of the Ratfolk just reminds me of furrier halflings.
Yeah, actually, you're not wrong. Furrier halflings. While Ratfolk like adventure, it's not their
forte.
World. Yeah, like halflings are very family-oriented usually, but they just want to break away and have adventures all the time. Ratfolk are more, they have a job, and by golly, they're going to do it. They're focused on the community, but they're still focused on themselves. And that's kind of also part of Edge of Legend. The Ratfolk in our world very much try to help the community. but because of paranoia, they're always going to be focused on themselves a bit, and it's that conflict. To make matters more interesting, there's a caste system with our rats, a sort of oligarchical caste system, so that anyone from their system can break free, but they won't benefit really until they die and kind of come back as a more
reincarnation.
a more fantastic rat, if you will.
Should we break down the Ratfolk mechanics?
You know what? Yeah, let's do that. We can go into deeper lore later. So why don't we give them a quick rundown on the stats?
The hit points are going to be 6, much like the kobolds, and their size, same as the kobold, small. Also like the kobold, speed of 25. Their ability boosts are dexterity, intelligence, and 1 free boost. Their flaw would be strength, which means they're fast, they're smart, but they're not really the strongest. You don't want them to open pickle jars.
Yeah, they ain't strong. They're not going to throw the tomato very hard.
Their languages are common, Yoseki, and
Yosoki,
yeah. And additional languages equal to your intelligence modifier if it's positive.
And there's a lot of lists that you can choose from there. It'll be in the book. It'll be in the resource.
They have low light vision. They could see in dim light as though it were bright light. So you ignore the concealed condition due to dim light.
Yeah, so they don't have dark vision like kobolds do, but they still have a pretty good vision. And this is funny because what I love about low light versus dark light is that you can plan for it as a GM and a player more tactically. And also, it's not like other editions where you get into a cave. It's very dark. Everyone's like, I have dark vision. You know, it gives you a nuance. It gives you a level. You don't just shout, I have dark vision.
So let's go down to the Ratfolk heritages. Do you want to start us off, PJ?
Sure. The very first one, Deep Rat. This name makes me laugh. I don't know why. Like a deep and ancient rat. Effectively speaking, you get dark vision. So say you're in our world, Edge of Legend, and you're one of the bilge rat people from the floating ship cities, which hopefully we will one day do a fun campaign of, but I've been building my head when you get to that point. But because you live in such a deep, dark place, your eyes have adjusted through generations of living there. And now you got dark vision.
Yeah, not bad. Next up, we have Desert Rat. You are native to the arid plains and likely grew up traveling the roads. You have a leaner build than most other ratfolk, with longer limbs and short fur. If you have both hands free, you can increase your speed to 30 as you run on all fours. In addition, environmental heat effects are 1 step less extreme for you, and you could go 10 times as long as normal before you are affected by starvation or thirst. However, unless you wear protective gear or take shelter, environmental cold effects are 1 step more extreme to you. Which means this is actually, if you want to play a Ratfolk Ranger or like a scout type character who explores different conditions and stuff, Desert Rat's for you.
Yeah. Really fast, I see Pengu Chan in the chat. We heckin' love you too, man. Loving all that Dragon Disciple stuff from Kingsmaker. I gave you a shout out earlier. And Lost Thought, awesome to see you in the chat as well. Yeah, let me know how those mitts go. I'm really curious about it myself. So Desert Rat's kind of fun. It's really cool. It's one of those beautiful moments when mechanics reinforce roleplay and roleplay reinforces mechanics. You know, if you're a rat, so you're going to be chilly. You're going to be a bit cold. But when you get into hotter environments, it's like, oh, come on, this is nothing. And you can kind of just have fun and play it off. And also, you get to run on all fours. That's so adorable. Next up, we have the Long Snout Rat. Who doesn't love a good snoot? You gain imprecise scent of 30 feet. So you're like the sensate gnome, but a little farther off. Let's see here. In addition, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks to seek a creature or object within the range. So now you get this really cool ability that's great for almost every single class. A +2 perception check with a range of 30 feet. That's always good, especially if you're like being an investigator. Investigator, the Great Mouse Detective.
Yes, Great Mouse
I'm loving
Detective
it.
is a long snout rat.
Totally is. Oh, and then he's got to get into a boss fight with Rat again. My childhood is in love with this build now.
So yeah, next up we have Sewer Rat. This one, I kind of want to say Sewer Rat is kind of what you kind of think of Ratfolk when you think of Ratfolk, kind of. You come from a long line of Yoseki from a community based in the sewers beneath a large settlement. You are immune to disease, filth, fever. Each of your successful saving throws against a disease or poison reduces its stage by 2 or by 1 for a virulent disease or poison. Each critical success against a ongoing disease or poison reduces its stage by 3 or by 2 for disease or poison.
Yeah, so right away I had like 2 or 3 ideas about this. One, if you want to just say, nope, poison, not today, great build for that. 2, you make a sewer rat a monk, you got yourself Master Shredder. Right, no, Splinter. Oh, God.
Splinter, yeah, Splinter.
Oh, God, that's horrible. Yeah, Master Splinter. And it makes sense. He lives in the sewers. So Master Splinter is a monk rat folk. And I love it. The second one is that it's so hard in this game to get abilities that allow you to take less of an effect from something. They exist in plenitude, but it's plentiful, whatever, but it's hard to find them. This is innate. Granted, there's only one thing, it's poison damage, but as we saw with the Kobold, poison will mess you up. So really go out of your way to not do that. Let's see here. I also see you can make a rat artificer like the grandfather. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we're getting Secretive Nim. I love it. You can also have some fun, do a Redwall campaign if you like Redwall.
I want to say the next one. Actually, I want to disagree with you about the Master Splinter because I think the next heritage would be actually Master Splinter.
Okay.
You want to read that one?
Sure. Shadow Rat. Your ancestors lived in dark spaces underground, granting you dark fur and a vaguely unnatural mien that unnerves sapient creatures and frightens animals. You gain the trained proficiency rank in Intimidation and can use Intimidation to coerce animals. When you demoralize an animal, you don't take a penalty for not sharing a language with it. If you would automatically become trained in Intimidation, you can become trained in another skill of your choice. Animals' attitudes towards you become 1 degree worse than normal, usually starting at unfriendly instead of indifferent, or domesticated animals, and hostile instead of unfriendly for wild animals. So I don't know so much about Master Splinter. He was kind of loved by all.
But I think this is like the ninja side of him. The ninja side of him. When Master Splinter wants to get down to business.
Yeah. Although, I don't know. I would have to say with the Shadow Rat, I feel like this is Ratigan from Great Mouse Detective.
Okay.
Because the Shadow Rat's entire thing is, because of my appearance, because of my upbringing, as terrible as all this sounds, because of my life and where I came from, I'm a scurry boy. I'm a scurry boy, and animals are rightly afraid of me. But I can use this to my advantage. And that's the thing about Ratigan. Ratigan was a big, fat rat. He was a big, strong dude.
Yeah, he was a strapping boy.
He did not skip chest day. And he terrified people. And he did so with a level of posh upper society. You know, like he was scary and he was rich.
You know what? You're right. I'm going to go Shadow Rat, Ratigan, Master Splinter, Sewer Rat.
Definitely so
agree.
One day, look for the one-shot campaign, the Great Mouse or the Great Ratfolk Detective, where we're gonna have a Ratfolk investigator and a Shadow Rat barbarian.
Oh, and Sydney is saying Shadow Dancer, Shadow Rat. That's a lot of shadows.
That's a lot of shadows, but that'd be kind of cute though. I can see that, just like a Ratfolk, like I am the darkness.
Yeah, like definitely Shadow Rat would go. I would say monk into Shadow Dancer.
I could totally see that. Maybe even Rogue, depending. Well, no, because sneak attack levels, but still like a shadow magic.
Yeah.
Either way, so the first feat. Now we're getting to the Ancestry Feats. This is the fun, juicy stuff that you get to choose and create your character. Right away, what I love is that they've taken something from Starfinder, cheek pouches. If you guys have had the chance to play Starfinder, it's a fun system to play paladins in space. And the Yosoki in that have these cheek pouch abilities that they get naturally. You have to choose it. But these cheek pouches are so dope because let's say you're an alchemist, you're building a whole bunch of bombs and all these things, and you're running out of places to put stuff. You can store basically light bulk, 4 light bulk items, so like 4 items, bulk 1 to 3, in your face. You just store them in your face. Free space.
You're essentially a chipmunk.
Mm-hmm. You can empty your mouth with a single action, causing everything you had stored in your cheek pouches to fall on the ground in your square. Let's talk smart play. You can make bombs, 4 of them. Each have a bulk of 1, very light. You shove them in your mouth, and you just start rolling deception checks. And then you get up to the big bad, you get up somewhere, who knows, and you just, 1 action, blah.
I just thought of this. Playing off the chipmunk thing and the rats and basically the whole animal motif, rescue rangers.
Ooh. Oh, gosh. I'm trying to remember. The big Australian rat. Mortimer?
Montgomery Jack.
Montgomery Jack.
Monty.
That's right.
Monty.
He's named after the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see that, yeah, because he does, like, constantly shove things in his mouth. Pack rat. You can fit an additional 50% of the listed bulk capacity into mundane storage containers or vehicles. For example, you can fit 6 bulk into a backpack or 12 bulk into a chest. This doesn't alter the item's bulk, nor does it change how much you can store in a magical or extra-dimensional storage space, such as bag of holding. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? I may not fight a thing, I may not do a thing, but man, I'm going to be the pack mule of the party. I'm going to hold on to everything.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we got Rat Familiar. It's a level 1 feat, and if not just being a rat folk is enough, you could have a rat pet as a rat folk.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
You get a magical rat that is bonded to you. That's adorable.
You gain you have a pet rat that has become magically bonded to you. You gain a familiar using the rules here, and this familiar must be a rat. So, no choice. It has to be a rat. It still gets the benefits of familiar abilities, but its base form remains a rat.
So you can get some really cool familiar powers down the road, things to make him stronger, faster, maybe even cast his own magic or their own magic. It's just a teeny tiny rat, and you get to surprise people. Also, last thought, think of the correction, Monterey.
Yeah.
Monterey like the jack, like the cheese. Ratfolk Lore is next. Functions a lot like Kobold
Lore, yeah.
You get trained rank in acrobatics and stealth, and you learn the Ratfolk lore, which makes sense because you're a Ratfolk. So why wouldn't you have that?
Mm-hmm. Next up is Rat Speak, which is a level 1 feat. To you, the squeaking of rats and other rodents make a strange kind of sense. You could ask questions of, receive answers from, and use the diplomacy skill with rodents, including beavers, mice, porcupines, rats, and squirrels, but not with other mammals such as dogs or bats, or I bet also cats. The GM determines which animals count as rodents.
Now, I may get corrected here in the chat, but you know what animal I don't see on this list?
What?
A badger. I would add a badger to that list. Next up, we get Tinkering Fingers. There's a lot at level 1, by the way. Yeah. You're good with your hands. You can quickly improvise or fix a broken or damaged piece of equipment. You're trained in crafting. If you would automatically become trained in crafting, you become trained in something else. You can repair an item without using a repair kit and without taking the -2 circumstance penalty. Improvising tools from whatever you need. So this is really great. It's not so much like the build we talked about with kobolds where you get to build traps. This is really more of like the oh gosh, what was it? There was a class in another Pathfinder game where you basically you got bonuses for making and imbuing magic into equipment. An artificer, I guess, of sorts. Although I feel like 5th edition kind of made artificer this kind of it removed the crafting mechanisms and made it just another spellcaster. But Tinkering Fingers is great for being a Pathfinder artificer where you're actually crafting and building things and making magic.
Next up, we have Vicious Incisors. Level 1 feat, you let your incisors grow long enough to serve as formidable weapons. You gain a Jaws unarmed attack that deals 1d6 piercing damage. Wow. Your Jaws are in the brawling group and have the finesse and unarmed traits. Unlike most creatures, you can file down your teeth and regrow them later on, enabling you to select this feat at any level and to retain into and out of this feat.
Yep. Really fast, I want to give a big shout out, say hello to Mr. Mehara. Great to see you in the chat, Mr. Mehara. Yeah, what I like about Vicious Incisors is that with every other feat choice, you can only get them at that level. I think there might be some retraining things where you can probably dip into an earlier level. A lot of that can also just be discussed with your GM. But what's great about Vicious Incisors is there's no question. You can take this at any level to have a natural weapon, a 1d6 natural weapon, much like the Kobold's Bite. But again, you can get this anywhere down the road, or get rid of it. So you're like, man, I got this weapon, so I'd have a close range weapon as an alchemist, but I'm just never getting into close range combat. This sucks. You can later basically get rid of Vicious Incisors and pick up anything else you want. It's got a lot of forgiveness and leniency to the player. I really love
Honestly,
that.
I would say take this as a monk. Unarmed attack, monks.
True,
or barbarian.
Barbarian, yeah. Monk, my thing about monks is that they get an ability where their natural unarmed attack goes up to a d6 anyway. So I feel like this might become a redundant weapon, but a barbarian wouldn't have that. So it'd be brilliant for a barbarian.
Yeah.
Warren Navigator, next up on the list. Bottom line, you are trained in survival. If you automatically become trained in survival because of class stuff, train in something else of your choice. When you sense direction or attempt to roll against a maze spell, you get a result 1 degree of success better than you rolled. You don't take a penalty to sense direction when you lack a compass. So let's say you fail something. You now succeed it. And this is really great because let's say everyone botches their survival or perception checks. They're lost, they're tracking, they're in the maze spell or whatever. Hey, guess what?
Boom.
And even if I critical fail, I only kind of fail. So it's a really good, shall we say, challenging finger to the GM.
All right. Next up, we have what I call the Pinky and the Brain feat. It's a level 5 feat called Lab Rat. You spent more. Yeah.
Go right ahead, dude. Yeah.
You spent more than your share of time in an alchemy lab. You might have been an alchemist yourself, an assistant, or perhaps even a test subject. Either way, you have been exposed to a wide variety of alchemical poisons and elixirs, leaving you with a tolerance of their effects. You have a +1 bonus to saving throws against poisons and harmful effects from elixirs. If you roll a success on your saving throw against an elixir or poison, you get a critical success instead.
So again, hard to poison. I believe you can probably combine this with a sewer rat and just have
double tough.
Fear of poisons. Double tough. Let's see here. Quick Stow, free action. You have to get the cheek pouch ability mentioned earlier, but once per round of free action, you are adept at quickly moving items into and out of your cheek pouches. You can interact to store 1 held item into your cheek pouch, provided it fits. So you're just for free stashing something. Well, let's say the villain drops a MacGuffin. You can just for free shove it in your mouth and then use all your 3 actions to get the heck away from the big bad evil guy.
Next up, we got Rat Magic, which is a level 5 feat. There always seems to be a little rat around to carry messages for you. You can cast this Animal Messenger once per day as a primal innate spell. When you do, the animal that responds is always a rat. If there are no rats within range, the spell is lost. Essentially, you are a Disney princess with rats. And I just wanted to say, this year is, I believe, the 65th anniversary of Disney.
Oh, wow. That's a very, very good point.
Yeah.
We also see some people talking about Ferngully. I have no idea what the anniversary of Ferngully is at this point. But yeah, you could probably reskin the rat to be a bat. The only problem, though, is that bats have a fly speed and rats do not. So you'd have to come up with a good reason why, or just allow the fact that you're
Batman. That's why.
I'm Bat Rat. Let's see. 9th level. Now we're only getting 3 feats at this point. Big mouth, kind of like the Netflix show, not as raunchy. Prerequisites, the cheek pouch again. They are especially stretchy. Instead of storing up to 4 items, you can now store up to... oh, there you go. The maximum size item is unchanged. This is really weird. Let me try to read this one more time. This is written weird. Instead of storing up to 4 items of light bulk in your cheek pouches, you can store up to, I see what the problem is. Okay, I see where my brain went wrong. So if you really want to dig deep into the cheek pouch build, let's say you're high to that cheek meta. You're so on that cheek build right now. Big Mouth allows you to go from 4 light bulk items, which are very, very small items, probably not really going to be a major boon. You can now put up to 1 actual bulk. So let's say it's a piece of armor. It is like a light armor. It is, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of bulk 1 items. A lamp, like a whole lantern. You can store a lantern in your mouth. You can store your bedroll in your mouth. Things like that.
You can store a halfling in your mouth.
I don't know if they count as 1 bulk, but yeah.
I mean, you could store a pixie in your mouth.
Probably, yeah. Next up, we have Overcrowd.
Yep, that's a level 9 feat. Do you want to take this or should I?
Why don't you take it?
All right. Your physiology is slight, and you can pack into small spaces with others of similar stature as long as you are small. You could end your movement in the same square as a small ally. Only 2 creatures total can share the same space when using this ability or a similar one.
Yeah, I have to say, I just love the stuff in chat going on about the cheek meta. You guys are hilarious. Just talking about Ian positing this idea where, so you're like, oh wait, I have that. You just vomit a bunch of stuff out of your mouth. Last thoughts, like, you can store a whole baby.
A rat baby.
A whole rat baby. Yeah, you could probably do some fun stuff with the rats and the big mouths. Overcrowd is great if you need to basically create cover. It can be used probably intelligently. I don't know why they say if you are small. All rat folk are small.
I'm thinking it's because you could do this with a kobold or a halfling or gnomes, probably.
Ooh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So long as you are sharing a space with another small creature, that makes sense. Now
you could essentially be like that comedy gag, two kids in a trench coat.
You could literally roleplay 2 rat folk in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. That's also great because let's say you have 2 players, they're playing brother and sister or brothers or whatever, and they have this magical coat called, like, I don't know, I'll make it the coat of lazy convincing. Sure. And you have to take turns standing on each other's heads, put on the trench coat, and now everyone's all like, no, this is Ferguson. He's like the greatest townsperson who builds things. And one person crits their perception check and goes, no, that's 2 rat people in a coat. Sir, how dare you? That is Ferguson, and I will not tolerate him being called a rat. No, but there's 2 rats.
Slander.
Oh, I love it. Speaking of rats, the next ability is called Rat Form. 1 action. You transform into a rat. Yep. You can effectively cast a 1st level pest form spell, except that you must assume the form of a tiny rat. I'm sorry, the battle form of a tiny rat. So I'm laughing, but this is fun. There's a lot of ways you can use this. You can use this for clandestine sneaky sneak. I don't know if the battle stats for a tiny rat are dope. Maybe they are. I would not imagine wanting to use this in combat and actually fighting, but who can say?
I would say use this as a ratfolk monk, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, next up is the capstone, which is called Warden Digger, which is a level 13 feat. You've learned to put your sturdy claws to work digging through the earth. You gain a burrow speed of 15 feet.
Yeah, now this is really awesome because if you watched Edge of Legend, you know that Mush has a burrow speed. Yeah. And when he gets the command from Woodwort, he can burrow, I want to say about 10 feet. Help me out here, Ian, if you're in the chat. How many feet can Mush burrow down, straight down? But either way, what's cool about that is that mobility is an amazing way to, I just got a confirmation, 10 feet. Heck yeah. So Warren Digger, allows you to burrow 5 feet faster or 5 feet more than mush, at least mush right now. And this is tremendous tactile mobility, tactical mobility. You're in a fight. You are in a bad place. You can burrow and get out of harm's way entirely. Or you can argue there's going to be some bonuses for your stealth checks. This is such a fun way to role play and think tactically in combat. So I think that's awesome.
Not just in combat, out of combat too. Like say you're in a prison cell and you need to pull a Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have to look at the ability again because I want to make sure materials are a hindrance or not. Mm-hmm. Nope, just says, okay, dig through the earth. So you could argue, and again, this is, for some it's half the fun, for some it's not. You could argue that the stone infrastructure of the prisons cannot be burrowed through. Or you could argue the ground is mostly soft dirt. And then you could totally Shawshank your way out.
Yeah, or even, hey, maybe you got some tools. Just break through the layer of stone, and then under the stone is going to be dirt.
I'm also getting this amazing fun idea. So there's a place we've talked about lightly in the show that we haven't been to yet. It's called New Jack City. Mm-hmm. And they are participating in a never-ending war against this kind of magical curse on the outside of their city. And they have 20 trenches in which they live in so they can constantly fight and be safe. So now imagine, if you will, there is a unit of Ratfolk commandos who are tunnel diggers, like you'd have in World War I, like they kind of had in World War II. And now you have these commando rats with shovels and bare hands, and they're just like digging through mud and dirt and creating a tunnel network.
I just had an idea. Instead of Renaissance painters, could they each be named after postmodern painters, and their teacher is like a turtle? They could be like, they could be Dolly, O'Keefe,
Degas. I think Degas is mostly neoclassicist, but still. I took 1 semester of art history. Look at me go. I love it. Oh, Pollock.
Yeah.
Pollock. I love that. Okay, so
Warhol.
Oh, there's got to be a Warhol. They're hands down. I'm seeing in WW1 and Korea and Vietnam. Thank you, Reap. Yeah, because I know we talked about World War I. They had trenches and tunnels. World War II, definitely. Korea and Vietnam makes sense. Oh, also, you have some of the tunnel digging and the tunnel fighting in, the Russian occupation of Iran and Iraq. Anyway, it was in the 70s and 80s. It was during the Cold War. America was really bad about paying attention to that. And that was this episode of At the Table. We discussed a lot about the kobolds. We got to discuss a lot about the Ratfolk. We even got to go into how some of the Ratfolk might exist in Edge of Legend. Sometimes living on the sail piratey cities and kobolds. What fun builds we came up with. So thank you so much for pulling out your chair, picking up your tabletop role-playing books, and joining us at the table. Look forward to seeing you next time. My man, Mr. Michael Powell, please say a little bit about yourself.
I'm Michael Powell, and you can find me all over the internet on my socials, which are Mr. Kapao, that's MrKapao, that's Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. Or you can follow me on my hub, which is Facebook, that's facebook.com/Michael Powell does stuff, because I do a lot of stuff. PJ, where do we find you?
Oh, absolutely. You can find me at everywhere in the internet as pj.magaw, M-E-G-A-W. You can also find me here at Nat20 Productions official on Twitch, Tuesdays for At the Table, and Wednesdays for our flagship Pathfinder 2nd Edition premiere show, Edge of Legend. So if you missed this, don't worry. We got more coming, and I'll be here, same Nat time, same Nat station. Looking forward to having a great time with you guys.
Bye!